Hello and welcome back to the Yesteryear podcast. My name is James and I'm joined by my lovely co-host Beth. How are you this evening, Beth?
I'm just ready for the night to end. I'm just, just really tired. I woke up early this morning.
Yeah.
And I'm going to go to bed late and I'll have to wake up early tomorrow. Just tired.
You got good stuff going on?
Nope.
Oh.
But you got anything good going on?
No, tomorrow's kind of a day off because of the whole holiday, but meh. Meh. Same for you?
No.
No school?
I'm still going to be working.
Oh, yeah.
I still have school.
Oh. Okay.
Must be nice. Slacker.
Slacker. If this is your first time joining us here at the Yesteryear podcast, welcome and thank you for tuning in. If you like what you hear, be sure to check us out, and check out our older episodes, please. For those of you that are returning listeners, thank you so much for being you and for what you do. We enjoy doing this immensely and love it even more knowing that we're bringing joy to people's lives. We bring the joy. No?
Like the sun?
Yeah, like the sun. We bring the sun.
You know, like that one song. It's like, here comes the sun.
Dee-dee-dee-dee. That's the Beatles.
Bringing people joy.
I don't know about that. Like the little baby in the sun on the Teletubbies. She's like 56 now.
No, not that baby. That baby scared me. Why are babies in the sun? I thought. No one would answer my questions.
No one knows. It's the sun baby. This week's episode is a Beth's Pick episode, and we're going to talk about Scream. So I hope everybody likes that.
Yeah. Well, I've been mentioning it in the last couple of ones. I really wanted to do this one, so it was inevitable. But yeah, because we've been on a little horror kick lately.
We sure have. We've been doing a whole bunch of them. I feel like it's, well,
I've enjoyed it.
That's good.
So we do a lot of like.
I like comedies.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say.
So that's more my speed.
I like romantic comedies.
Ugh. Is License to Drive a romantic comedy?
No.
Well, there's some romance in it.
No.
Strangers in the night.
Not good enough. Strangers, don't you ever dare say that to me again. No. But, have we done one yet? I don't think we've done one yet.
What? A romantic comedy?
Yeah.
I don't think so. Nothing that's been actually, like, listed as a romantic comedy.
Yeah.
So, yeah, Scream was actually released the same year that I graduated high school. So, I graduated in June, and then it came out in December.
Did you go watch it with your friends?
I did. Yeah. I remember going to watch it with my friends. And I was all kinds of happy because it was a rated R movie. And I was able to get in being 18, even though no one tried to stop me. Nobody cared.
No.
I had my idea. I'm like, oh, I look old. I looked old when I was 18.
I don't like looking at young pictures of you. It freaks me out.
Oh, I'm sorry.
You just you just look jank.
Oh, and now I just look like old jank.
Now you look more jank, but old. With more lines on your face.
I look like a lizard person for real. Sorry. One day you'll find out you are too, and then it's all downhill from there.
Yeah, really.
So, I was a pretty big Drew Barrymore fan and was excited to see her in this. I didn't know what type of role she had in it. I just knew she was in it, so I was pretty excited. She's the girl at the beginning.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's funny to see also where like cell phones were at the time and to know that they were still so rare for people to have. Like, it wasn't like it is now where basically you're come out the womb and you've got a stupid
here's a
cell phone assigned to you.
Yeah.
Now, then it was like, because I mean, they're like, oh yeah, man, everybody's got one. But it's like, no, nobody else in the movie seemed to have a cell phone.
No, and I think phones are a little overrated nowadays. Because I remember the first time I got a phone, it was a little flip phone. Yeah. And it slid up. Yep. And
it's a Droid.
And I was so excited about that phone. And once I think it was fourth or third, it was in my backpack, and in our not kindergarten, but in elementary, they had us all put the backpacks together in the room, Yeah. And I spent, like, the day before, I spent like 3 hours picking out a ringtone. Yeah. And I really liked the one I had. Like, I had it memorized, and it was like playing in my head. It was like in my head. So in my head, I was like humming to it, and my phone was going off in the classroom, and it was. So I thought it was just in my head, and I was like singing. I was like do 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 do, and then I look around, and everyone's like looking at me, and they're all like bro, go answer your phone.
Wow.
It was traumatizing. I got up, opened up my backpack, and I was like, I'm so sorry. And then I went back to my desk, and I was like, oh.
Wasn't anybody good?
No.
Oh, probably.
The only numbers I had on that phone were you and Mom.
Yeah, so
anybody
people
else
trying to
calling me
sell
was,
you something.
Yeah, and everybody else was not welcome.
Your car warranty is about to expire. We know. We don't even have one, you stupid people. I hate that. I hate that call. Your car warranty is...
I just don't answer phone calls.
I don't either. I try
like,
to
even if it's
block
people
them
I know,
now.
I don't even answer.
Oh.
I don't like phone calls.
There was just a study I heard, like something like 80-something% of people wish that people would just text them instead of calling.
Yes. I would much rather text people. It's so much easier because then it's not required to, like, you're not, like, forced to sit down and talk to someone. If you're trying, like, say you're busy, you know, you can just reply when you want to. Or you can think about what you're going to say first. So it's not just out of the blue. I just prefer it over to be text.
That's fair. So funny, at the time that this came out, everybody did have a pager because it was, like, the cheap and the way to communicate.
I've always wanted a pager.
So you know what one is?
Yes. I've seen Grey's Anatomy.
Well, before that, they also existed.
Yeah.
There were these little codes people could use, like put like numbers and stuff like that, and it actually meant things like messages, and people would be like, ha, 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 or oh no, he didn't. Like, but I had no clue how.
Like when you put like numbers in a
like
calculator.
4-645-2, and that meant like I'm around the corner. And
that's way too complex.
I'm telling you, that stuff was happening.
Jeez.
Yeah, I had no clue. Somebody sent me like 6 and a 2, and I'm like, okay.
Yeah, I remember when I was like 8, I was playing on a website, and they were like, it was like a texting thing. So people were like, they sent like LOL, and I was like, what does that mean? I don't know what that word is. And I remember going like on Google and being like, what does LOL mean? Oh, LOL too, my guy. You know?
Right. You just mess up and send the wrong thing. Wait, no.
No, sometimes sometimes I feel really old because like there'll be new ones that'll pop out of nowhere, like new little things like that, and I'm like, I don't know what that means.
What do you think I feel like, man?
Like,
you got a better grasp on it than me.
I just had to look it up. I was like, sometimes I would get, like, my friends will send me stuff and they'll say something like that and I don't know what it means. I'll just like send a picture back and be like, yeah, or whatever. Or either like quickly go out and go into like Urban Dictionary and be like, what does this mean? It's really stressful sometimes. I don't want to seem old.
Right, you don't want to see me.
I don't want to seem,
turn into a lizard.
Have lines on my face. Suddenly I have a giant, like, it's just not good.
Yeah. So yeah, I did have a pager though, man, and I felt like a cool kid with it. I didn't have a cell phone because there was no need to have one at that point in time. I did have a little chain that hooked to it that you would clip to your pants. But that was it.
Didn't bedazzle
it was purple.
I would have bedazzled
One was
mine.
green and one was purple. We didn't have that at that time. It hadn't been invented yet.
Well, did you have little gems?
No, we didn't even have
gems. Like the peel apart
ones.
ones?
Nope, we didn't have them.
Really?
We didn't have anything.
I'm going to ask your mom.
I had pieces of coal.
I think you're lying. Coal?
Yeah.
God, you're a little gremlin boy.
I had built it up from all my Christmas presents.
Oh.
Yeah. Yeah.
Purple. That's really cool. Was it like a case?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, you slid the inside the case, so it was a purple. It was really
I think
cool.
That's what you do with cases. Stupid.
All right, I feel
my little flip phone had a case. It was pink.
Yeah,
and I hate the color pink, or I hated it more when I was younger. But I was like, I would drop the phone sometimes. And it would just like shatter apart.
Yeah,
and I was like.
Yeah, but those things could go through a nuclear holocaust, man. Those things won't last. iPhone, you look at it wrong, and it's like, I'm injured.
Yeah. Suddenly, my battery doesn't work.
You need to send more money to iPhone.com.
I really wanted a BlackBerry. I remember you took us in the store once. I think we were getting Justin a phone. And I remember looking over at one, and I saw the BlackBerry, and I was like, oh my god, that is the coolest phone. And then like the year after, they went out of style.
Yeah.
It was like literally the year after they were like,
yeah, you had the stylus, and it was all, ooh, this is useful.
I don't know, but I don't know about it.
The little pin is a stylus.
Oh, there was one. I don't know. The one I was looking at, I can see the model like perfectly in my mind.
I know. I think I know which one you're talking
black, and it was like round, and it was not a slide phone because it had everything.
No,
on it.
It had everything.
And I was like, that is the coolest thing.
Yeah, it was pretty neat looking.
Like, oh my gosh, I didn't get it though.
No, of course you didn't. So, man, I actually dug this movie when I saw it. And there was a couple times that it actually caught me with the jump scares.
Oh, yeah, me too.
When the first time that I watched it. Not so much now, but, now.
Well, now, yes.
I've seen it so many times.
That's fair.
I think that I may have won tickets to see this movie because at the theater, I remember getting the little Jiffy popcorn thing that they had with it and some type of memorabilia.
I don't know what that is.
She was cooking the Jiffy Pop. She was cooking the popcorn. That's called Jiffy Pop popcorn. You put it on. It's Jiffy. It's ready in a Jiffy. Jiffy Pop popcorn.
They never have that now. They just pull it out of the little container.
Put it on the oven.
I've literally never seen them cook any of the popcorn. It's always just there.
No, yeah, they had that too. They had the popcorn there, but I'm saying they had these little things they were handing out at the theater.
Well, you do it yourself.
Yeah, on the stove.
That doesn't seem safe.
Not at the theater.
Oh, you took it home.
Yeah.
I was gonna say.
Fully wink.
I was gonna say, wow, that doesn't.
Wow,
seem
so you cooked your own popcorn at the theater? Yeah, everybody sat around and did it, and then we had a little bonfire. Yeah, it was real cool.
I was gonna say that doesn't seem very.
No, you fool.
Oh, you should have said that.
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. I'm not as old as you.
Yeah,
Mr. Dinosaur.
Yeah. They showed they showed the film on the side of a dinosaur.
What?
Like the projector, and it projected on the dinosaur's side. The dinosaur just stands there and movie on my side. Jiffy Pop popcorn.
It's not the Jiffy Pop popcorn.
That's not even the song for it. That's not even a song.
Yeah, I don't believe you when you say things like that anyways. Because usually you're making something up or it's ripped off something else.
Blasphemy.
Ironic, man. I hate that. I hate that stupid word now because of you. I hear anybody say that or I read it in a book and I just go, oh, I just vomit. Like a baby just like throws it on itself.
Or like The Fly, Jeff Goldblum style. You haven't seen it?
Oh, I do know what you're talking about actually. Yes. Yeah. You.
It was gross, dude. That's Cronenberg. That's all the Cronenberg universe and all that. That's why, because it's gross. He's gross. Anyways. So, what was your initial impression of the movie?
Well, I'm trying to think of around the first time I actually saw bits of this movie. Of course, it was on TV and you guys were watching it.
Of course, you came downstairs. Yeah.
But I remember because there was only one scene that I actually remembered from this movie because it was very traumatizing. But I had a really good I really wanted to watch this one, so obviously I had a good impression of it. Because this movie is different from other horror movies. It's because we'll get into it more, but their whole reasoning behind it was to watch scary movies, take notes, and then try and do it. They were really smart with some of it going about it.
Yeah.
And especially, I think I was talking to a coworker a couple weeks back, and I said, I wish we were in the 1980s again because it was so easy to kill people back then. Because now they're busting people for it.
Show just went dark.
No, I'm serious. I'm serious because it would. There's so much you could have gotten away with murder-wise, and that people did get away with murder-wise if you were smart about it. Like the movie, The Lovely Bones. Have you ever seen that?
No, I'm busy.
I watched that
Go ahead.
I'm busy. I watched that 3 or so years ago, and it really changed how I viewed things because, it was just such an interesting movie. He goes and he gets away with multiple murders.
Yeah.
And no one would have suspected it anyways had he just kept his mouth shut, and just played a little safer. But it's just stuff like that that's so
but you see now
crazy to me.
How nowadays they're busting people nowadays.
Right, but some people are dead anyways.
So just
yeah. You have that there's a coloring book of serial killers or in the coloring book you can color Jeffrey Dahmer and Ted Bundy. Have you not seen that?
No.
Oh well, it's really.
What
if you're gonna leave
Gadzooks?
Amazon, I don't know.
Oh.
Gadzooks, what is that?
It's an old store. It was called Gadzooks. It existed. It was Spencer's. I'm sorry, Spencer's. There you go.
Okay.
You feel better about that. Hot Topic.
Okay.
Pop Docket. Choco Taco.
Stop! What are you saying?
Go ahead.
Are you done?
Yeah, I'm done.
Choco Taco.
Yeah, you used to get those at Taco Bell. They were delicious.
Oh, I've heard of those.
Yeah.
Put a little ice cream in it. Sounds really bad for you.
Yeah,
Sounds
I'm fat. What are you gonna do?
not eat Choco Tacos.
Well, anyway.
I don't know what I was saying.
No, it wasn't that important.
What a jerk.
So
You are talking about Choco Tacos right now, and you're going to say that what I was talking about was actually related to the movie somehow.
You were just saying about the coloring book and how it had
Oh,
Jeffrey
yeah.
Dahmer
So
all in it.
to have been a murderer who ended up, like, that's like your mark on the world. Like, I've just started school recently, and, okay, you're looking at me with this
That's
look.
so weird. Go ahead.
I don't want I'm not saying that I would murder someone. I mean, unless put in the position where I had to. However, I've started school recently, and one of my government teacher had us do this assignment, which is like, what makes you yourself unique? And this was really stumping for me because I was like, I don't really, stand out much. I'm, I got my humor going for me. That's pretty much it. But, that's not unique. To be actually unique in this world is very difficult, I think. Because you're like, oh, every person's different. I mean, not really. We all live pretty much the same basic lives, if you break it down and simplify it. So the people who like Jeffrey Dahmer, who go and do insane, crazy, horrible things like this, and people remember, that's their unique factor. They left their mark on the world, and that's just it. So when you watch movies like this, or at least when I watch movies like this, I try to think of it like that. Had this been real, this would have been one of those stories. Two kids going around, I mean, spoiler alert, whatever, going around and just murking horribly these people. Like that one girl at the beginning of the movie, she gets, just gutted like a fish and then hung. And then the parents find her.
Yeah.
That would have blown up over the news.
Yeah.
There's no way that wouldn't have done that.
More than just local.
Right. So when I watch these movies, in my mind, I'm thinking, if this was real, these people would have been famous. So it's really cool to me to think, back in the 1980s, 90s, it was just easier to do stuff like this and not get caught.
Man, that's dark.
I mean, I guess if you wanted to take it like that, but
no, but I get what you're saying.
Yeah.
I think I get what you're saying, and that's cool. Like, yeah, I get what you're saying.
Yeah, I mean, you have stuff like Freddy Krueger that obviously isn't real. That's not practical.
Tell that to my dreams, man.
I mean, group of kids, the guy comes into their dreams, murder them now, or in the real world, whatever. Not really practical. So when you watch that movie, you're like, oh, this is scary, but I'm still safe because that can't happen to me.
Sure, okay.
But Ghostface, that could legitimately happen nowadays with kids, how they are now. I mean, you can have a kid freak out like he did over a girl, and then just start murdering her. Murdering people. It's not.
With as much true crime and stuff like that I listen to, and the stalking show and stuff like that I listen to.
And that goes into it with like why it's more scary to watch this movie for me as a kid as well, to have it where that could legitimately happen nowadays, and watch it, because to go back, in the 1980s, it was easier to get away with it. I mean, nowadays that wouldn't. I mean, this kid, if say I was Casey or whatever, the first one, I get gutted, put on a tree, you're coming out, you're gonna see me and be like, bruh, and then they're gonna just run some fingerprints and they're gonna find the dude that did it. It won't take that. I mean, they're gonna.
Well, I mean, they had fingerprints in the 1980s, man.
Oh well.
I mean, they didn't have the forensic science was relatively new at that time.
That's what I'm saying.
And I don't think like you're saying, there wasn't as many ways to get caught. Now all they do is triangulate your dang cell phone.
Right. See where you were.
Like, oh, well, you were literally standing in her front yard. Yep. Google told us, so you're dead.
Yep.
And cloning cell phones was a lot easier back then to clone to whatever. Oh, well, I'm assuming. I don't know if people do it now. I think it would be a lot harder now with the technology, but I know that it was a big thing in the 80s and 90s, because there's another movie called I Got the Hookup, which is where they basically like clone this one phone out, like everybody's. It was a really good movie. It's really funny.
I mean, to digress on it, I just, think about it. How many times nowadays do you hear about a serial killer going loose?
Yeah.
Off the top of my head, I can't think of anything. I hear, I was actually talking about this. We had a lockdown drill at school, Friday.
Yeah.
And I was at Burton, and we were talking about, because she was like, I have to ask you some questions. She's like, what can we do to make it safer or whatever? And I brought up, the one that happened in Florida last year. and how it made everyone really anxious to go back to school because, the fire alarm and everything, just really just bad. So when I think of stuff recently that was horrible like that, I think of stuff like that, school shootings with kids, things that relate to me, things that could happen, but I can't think of anything off the top of my head where it's like, oh, this guy or this girl murdered a bunch of people recently, and they can't find the killer or stuff like that, I just can't.
So either people have gotten really good at it, or technology has gotten so good that it's preventing people from it. I think people are getting stopped earlier nowadays, to tell you the truth. I think that where before they used to be able to do it once, get away with it, do it again, do it again, do it again, do it again. Now people are getting caught on that first murder. I really do.
Yeah.
I think that technology is, like, oh, he was dating Mary Sue, and then all of a sudden
she's dead
and disappeared. But then now, like, again, we watch some of the true crime shows, they look back and oh, wait a minute, there was a pattern. Look at this. Yeah. This one guy. Nowadays, I think they probably catch him on the first go.
Yeah, and I'm not saying that it doesn't happen. I'm sure there's somewhere that there is stuff going on. And, sorry to those people, but I'm not saying that it's nothing that's like big enough to affect the whole world again.
Right.
Like they even made a documentary on the guy, the Don't F with Cats. Have you watched that?
No.
He goes and he posted some videos on the internet where he's just like killing cats and stuff. It's actually horrible. Yeah, it's really sad, but it's a really good documentary. Huh. And people on the internet created a Facebook page to find him, and then he like joined their group and like was figuring out what they were doing, and they realized it, and they were like, but it was like too late, and then they actually cracked the code and found him. They found him. Like the government wasn't even involved with it. They went through and they did the whole thing. It was really interesting, but like stuff like that was big enough that a whole population of people were involved and they did it. I mean, nowadays, you just don't have that as often anymore. I mean, thank goodness, for sure. You don't want it to happen, but I'm just saying.
Yeah, I would say into the 80s and maybe some into the 90s is probably the last time that you really had, I think. I don't know. We can always look it up.
I mean, there's
if you know of anybody that, definitely email us at the Yes to Your Podcast.
Yeah, because I love reading stuff like that.
If there's somebody that we're completely missing, because we could be, somebody could be like, well, what about X, Y, and Z? And be like, oh man, I'm sorry.
I mean, that was that one podcast that we listened to together where it was the
B2K Killer, but I think that was in the 80s.
No, I haven't even heard of that.
Go ahead.
Where it was do you remember it was like Armand or something like that, but he was with the girl and she died and they were placing the blame on him, but he was talking to the girl who was actually doing the podcast from the jail. They were discussing doing the interview. Do you remember that?
I bet, yes.
We were actually in the car my sophomore year because we'd listened to that before, and over the radio they said his name and we're talking about it. And I remember because I was freaking out. It was in the morning. I was like, oh my gosh, they just said the guy's name from the podcast that we've been listening to.
Oh, nice.
Because I thought that it was like an older date, but it was something that was still going on. So it's stuff like that I was like, oh wow, that's still big enough that it's reaching small towns like us.
Gotcha.
So.
Yeah, I've been listening to this one just to give it a little off topic called Simply Stalking is a podcast. I highly recommend checking it out, and it's literally people telling stories about having stalkers, and some of them it's still going on. Yeah, and some of them it's ended in stuff like. But I mean, that's crazy. I gotta be careful listening to stuff like that because it freaks me out. Yeah, and I remember there's the No Sleep podcast. When I first listening to that one, I had to stop for a couple months because it was free. I got to the point where I was so paranoid leaving the house. I was like, I'm gonna look at someone and then they're gonna start trying to kill me, and so it was just stuff like that just kind of freaked me out. You know what, it makes me more concerned and more worried about you guys because there's just these simple, like somebody came into, like literally the lady worked at a pizza place and she had a person that she had met in one of her classes, and the next thing you know, he's like standing outside the glass like watching her and stuff like that, and I'm like, man, this makes me think yeah, my poor kid. You can't leave. You got to stay home forever. Right. And, especially this summer with me going out so much lately with my friends because we've been going everywhere It just seems to take one thing to flip these people's switch. Yep. Crazy stuff. I mean, even, and again, to bring it back around to this movie, I mean, literally, he kind of says, why, when he's talking about his motive and everything like that at the end. His motive was a little bit more, not that I like, not the word understand, but it was more
reasonable than
Right.
if somebody just was like, "Oh, this girl looked at me and I'm just not gonna kill her."
Right.
So-
But what I'm saying is it took one thing.
yeah.
He could have been on a really good path. And then the next thing you know, this happens and boom, now he's killer.
And it's usually the guys with mommy issues too. I will stand by that. I like literally every time. That's my advice for those of you out there looking for a male significant other. If they have mommy issues, do not go further. Do not. That is literally that's the number one thing with me. If I hear that, because every time you give me a serial killer that didn't have mommy issues, that was male.
For the most part,
Jason?
I think you're right. Jason Voorhees?
No.
I think
No, sorry.
like
no.
Jason from Friday the 13th. He got that mommy issue.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Oh, okay.
Okay, yeah. That is who I was talking about.
Oh, okay.
His mom killed him. Threw him into the lake.
No.
Is that not what happened?
No.
What?
We just watched that original the other day, and it was not as good as what I thought it was going to be. I was really.
Is that not what happened?
No.
I swear I watched one where they followed him to the lake, and it was because his mom threw him into the lake.
No. No. No.
We'll have to watch that one.
No.
No?
No, I just did. We just watched it, and it was horrible. And it was on Sci-Fi, so it was even cut. So they didn't even get to see the kill scenes. It was just it's
jeez.
not a good movie.
Okay, well, never mind.
No, the mom's the original killer in the first
Well, I knew she killed
Friday the
people,
13th.
yeah.
Right, and she's killing the camp counselors because they weren't paying attention to Jason, and he drowned in the lake.
Oh.
That's what happened to Jason.
I thought his mom killed him.
No, she came back crazy, and she came back crazy because her son died, drowned in the lake.
Well, then he doesn't count.
No,
but
I get what you're saying.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
So,
I mean, JD from Heathers. There's one. His mom killed herself, and then
yeah.
Well, that's what they say.
I mean, read that how you want.
Yeah, fair.
She killed herself because she went into the building right before it blew up, knowing it was going to blow up, but Dad blew it up anyway, so you tell me.
Yeah, fair. But still, I mean, that's why.
Wow, we're ruining a lot of other movies.
Either way, just stay away from them. Sorry.
Gotcha. So Scream is a rated R Wes Craven movie that was released December 20th, 1996. It revolves around a teen girl who is terrorized by a killer that is targeting her and her friends and uses horror films as part of their deadly game, which I thought was a neat
I
way
like
to
the
do
concept.
it.
Yep.
It's packed full of stars, or at least now stars. At the time, I don't know that they were as big, but I mean, you've got Nev Campbell, Courtney Cox, David Arquette, Drew Barrymore, Skeet Ulrich, Rose McGowan, and of course Matthew Lillard, who is one of my favorite actors from the time.
Mm-hmm.
The budget for the movie was $14 million, and it ended up grossing over $173 million worldwide.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well deserved, if you ask me.
So I would say it's a huge success.
Yeah, no.
That also explains all the sequels it got.
Yeah.
I mean, because it's. I
don't think I've ever seen any of these sequels or like heard of like.
Well, they're worth watching in my opinion. I think they're good movies. So the movie really killed it at the box office, and it was out forever. I'm pretty sure that there were still theaters showing it when it finally hit the video stores to rent. Blockbuster, rip. I'm pretty sure that like it was coming out that Friday, and you could still go see it in the theater because like it kept making people kept paying to go see it. They're going to keep it at the theater.
Yep, keep going.
As I said, it did have several sequels, and it has another set to be released as per the internet, but not until 2022.
So a sequel, not a remake.
It's a reboot.
Oh.
So I don't know how they're going to do. You know
Is it
how
2022?
2022.
Oh, dang.
So it's got some time.
Yeah.
You'll be 46.
Oh, jeez.
All right. So the movie begins with the title coming on pretty intense with like screaming and like, like scream. And
But it's
like
really quickly.
It's crazy. Yep. And then the phone rings. There's no playing around.
The trailer.
Yeah.
Yeah, we didn't talk, but I gave it.
You skipped it.
Yeah. Oh, I skipped it. Yeah.
Go ahead about the trailer.
So the trailer, I thought was really interesting. It didn't get a lot of it away. Like you don't really get to see who dies.
Yeah, it
so
pretty much focuses on the first 12 minutes of the movie. I remember it. Huh.
I don't really trust her memory.
Me either.
I gave the trailer a 4 out of 5. I would watch based off the trailer.
Wow.
Yeah, it was really good. It was really,
4 out of 5.
but the DVD art and the poster, I wouldn't watch based off that. It wasn't that good.
Just some people.
Just some people. So
yeah, her hand over her mouth.
I like that the intercut, they were short and sweet, and they didn't give time to like pause. It's just like thrown right into it.
They didn't even go into like producer and actors and actresses.
I love that about the 1990s.
Nothing.
Yeah.
It was just like scream, phone ringing.
Yep.
Young blonde girl answers the phone, and a voice on the other end seems confused to see, like, he's like, "Hello, who's this?" You know, he's like confused about who he called, which you called me, you know. So I assume he, because the voice sounds male. The phone rings again, and the girl answers it, and the guy's like, "I'm sorry, I guess I dialed the wrong number again," but wants to talk to her like flirty style. She says they have 900 numbers for that and hangs up. So I thought that was a really good throw to it. That
it really, like, the conversations in this movie seemed organic.
Yeah.
They didn't seem forced or scripted. They seemed like legitimate responses to things.
That's cool.
I like that about this movie.
So she starts making the popcorn. Jiffy Pop.
Jiffy Pop.
Jiffy Pop popcorn. This ain't the song for it. Never mind. And gets called again by the creepy voice guy. He asked why she doesn't want to talk to him, and she is going to, she says, "I'm going to watch a scary movie and eat popcorn, and I'm busy." They talk about the scary movies and if she has a boyfriend, and then he asks her name again and says he wants to know because he wants to know who he's looking at. And then she's like, "What'd you say?" And he's like, "Oh, because I want to know who I'm talking to."
Yep.
She's like, "Here's a dog barking outside," flips the lights on, kind of freaked out. And I gotta say, man, if somebody was like, "I want to know who I'm looking at," I'm hanging up and calling the cops immediately. I'm not playing around. Who's looking at me?
Yeah, I'm not very smart. I think I'd go up to my room.
And that, whatever.
And then lock the door. And probably call you.
That's what
Also, I don't like being home alone, so this probably situation wouldn't happen to me. I really, really hate being home alone.
Right, you gotta have at least Tabitha with you so she can fight people for you.
Yeah. At least if we're dying, I'll have somebody else with me, you know?
I'm not dying alone, you go first.
Oh my gosh, that's horrible. That would traumatize me.
Yeah. So she ends the call, and the guy gets kind of angry voiced.
Oh, not just kind of angry.
He's like, "Don't hang up with me.
Don't hang up on me." Yeah.
He calls back again and says he wants to talk to her, and she hangs up again. Then he calls back, and when she gets tough with him, like, she's like, "No, listen," and he says, "You hang up again, and I'm going to gut you like a fish."
Yeah.
Rip. So she is really freaked out now and says she's going to call the cops, but he's like, "They'll never make it in time." So she hangs up, and then the doorbell rings, freaking her out more. So she goes to call the police, but the phone rings before she can, and it's the voice telling her to scream out. You know, you never scream, "Who's there?" That's exactly how you get killed.
Yeah. Who's there? The murderer. I mean, obviously.
Right. Who else would it be? Are you expecting anybody?
I guess her parents were coming home.
Or Steve. But, because I'm assuming that might be what was supposed to happen. Maybe Steve was on his way over and they were going to watch a movie together, but, rip.
Oh, true. That would make sense. Why?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So she tells the voice that her boyfriend is going to be there any moment, and he'd be pissed if he knew what was going on. The voice already knows about the boyfriend and that his name is Steve. She asks how the voice knows that and tells her to turn on the porch light.
Yeah, then we just see Steve having some fun out on the patio.
Yeah, taped up with his mouth and looks pretty beaten up.
Yeah.
She sees him, taped to the chair. So she goes to run out, but the voice is like, "I wouldn't do that." He wants to play a game instead.
Yep, famous. Let's play a game.
Yep. So she plays the game with him kind of reluctantly, where he's going to ask questions about a scary movie.
I would not do well at this.
He gives her a warm-up question about the killer at the movie Halloween, and she gets it right, which she's like, "Sweet." Then he asks her who the killer was in the original Friday the 13th movie, and of course she gets it wrong because she says Jason, but as I told you earlier, the original mom was Mrs. Voorhees, his mother. So Steve gets gutted pretty bad and dies.
He's looking a little gutted.
Like, his whole entire section was out. Like, it wasn't just like slice. It was
what
like
I'm saying. It's
guts.
brutal.
Yeah. So then it's time for the bonus round, as the voice calls it, and Casey is the girl's name. Has to guess which door he is at in order to live. But before she can really guess, a chair comes flying through the back door.
Yeah, man. I mean, at this point, I was like legitimately like stressed out. I was like, man, I do not know how she's gonna get her. Like chasing scenes kind of get me.
Yeah.
Because especially like this, you really just don't know when it's gonna show up and be all boo.
Right.
Know? And I mean, they did it well enough that it was like a good build up to this. Like you're like anxious and you're sitting there and you're like, oh my gosh, I don't know when it's gonna happen. And then a chair comes through the thing and you're like, okay, obviously he's in the back.
Right.
And then she rushes like away from that.
Yep.
And
she goes and grabs a knife and she goes outside to hide from the killer while he's like looking around in her house, which that stressed me out because I'm like, just stay where you're at, man. Just stay quiet and keep the phone on because that way it doesn't start ringing again. I'm like making plans for her. I'm like, you can survive this. Just stay where you're at because he doesn't know where you are right now.
See, I would have gotten out the window and then just started running.
Right. So
she just stood there, which I didn't understand.
So she can see her parents coming. She still has the phone in her hand. She tries to run to them, but the killer sees her out the window and like bashes her head up. And then runs her down and stabs her and then chokes her out pretty bad.
Yeah.
She
gets a little fight in her.
Yep, she knees him and tries to yell for her parents, but because her throat is all crushed, she can't. She just don't.
It was really sad to watch.
And that is one of my nightmares, where you can't actually talk or yell for help, but you can see the people.
I just gonna start clapping.
You know what?
Are you not gonna look over if you just start hearing clapping?
That's actually a really, really good plan. I didn't even think about that. So
I would start clapping. Yeah.
If I heard clapping, I'd be like, "Who's giving me?"
You're gonna turn your eyes and you're gonna see me all beaten up and kill it out, and you're gonna be like, "Whoa!" And then the dude, and then he's gonna murk me or something and then leave.
So unfortunately, yeah, at least you'd see me. The killer catches her and stabs her out again. She does take the mask off the killer while he continues to stab her out.
Then it's just black.
But yeah, you don't see who it is. The mom goes to call the cops, but can hear Casey on the phone, basically being murdered.
It was so horrible. Sad, man. It was really like I felt actually bad.
She's like, Casey.
Yeah.
She's like, oh my god, I can hear her on the phone, and I'm like, oh my gosh, did not know you. That means you know that she's close.
Yeah,
because the phone's still there, and she's obviously in a bad state.
I couldn't imagine being a parent coming home, my house being all smashed up
and smoking,
and then you turn around, pick up the phone to go call somebody, and then hearing my kid dying on the phone while I literally can't do anything about it.
Yep. So the dad is running around in the background looking for her while the entire house is just smoky from the burnt up popcorn. The phone goes to a fast busy after we see Casey being dragged across the yard. The dad tells the mom to go to the neighbor's house, so she leaves out the front door, but then starts to scream when she sees Casey hanging from the tree, gutted like a fish.
Yeah, she's just hanging out.
Yeah, all her insides are hanging out on the ground. Yeah. I mean, it was pretty gross. And that's the opening of this movie. And I say kudos to you, opening of a movie guy.
Yeah, no, for real.
That was like such 12 minutes and holy cow. Yeah. I mean, to get you right into a movie.
And that's what I'm saying. I mean, if you don't even live in this town and you see this come on the news or read an article about it, like, jeez.
Right.
Because you know they're going to have to ask the parents because they're not going to know. They're going to be like, oh, well, we can infer because they're going to see the dead boy first.
Yeah, P.S. You got to deal with that too.
Throw back to like Fright Night. Right. Come in.
Exactly.
And dead on the floor.
Stupid.
But yeah, you have to come in. Their house is all smashed up. Dead kid on the porch. Daughter's dead over the phone. You hear her dying, and you go out and she's strung like a fish. I would be traumatized as a parent.
Yeah, at this point,
as a reader, I would have been like, "Oh my gosh!" And I'm sharing that with all my friends.
Right.
I'm resharing on Facebook. Hey guys, check this story out. It's horrible.
It almost seems not unbelievable.
Yeah,
like,
no,
holy
it seems
cow.
like straight out of a horror movie.
Yep. Right.
But this is something that could legitimately have happened.
Yep, I agree.
So it's just, I was really into it at this point.
That's cool.
I was just like, I was scared during this part, and anxious and everything, and jump scares were getting me, and then I was, thinking like my horror buff mind, I was all like, oh wow, all this is going on. So
Yeah, man. So the next scene opens on a young girl typing on a computer and then hearing noises at the window. She looks out and it's assumedly her boyfriend. It's Billy.
Billy.
Because she's like, Billy. Her dad comes to investigate her screaming, and she has the closet door open a bit to keep her bedroom door from being able to be opened all the way, which is pretty smart.
Yes.
The dad says that he's going to be going out of town on some business and tells her where he'll be staying. There's some money on the counter, blah, blah, blah. She kisses him and says, have a good trip. Billy comes up and talks to the young girl about how The Exorcist was on, but edited for TV, and how it reminded him of their relationship.
Yeah,
Which
it was
like, rude.
Yeah.
He says he's there to fool around a bit, which she's down for. Pretty much stops it at kissing, and then she's like, you gotta go. She does say she appreciates the romantic gesture and gives him like a PG-13 flash to say thank you. Which I was like, okay. So this is their relationship.
Yeah.
We then open on a school that is crawling with reporters and police. The young girl, Sydney, is arriving with her friend Tatum. And she shows up to tell her what happened to Casey and Steve and why the cops are there. Basically, the cops are interviewing all the students and faculty. And then we see that it's like Sydney's kind of like staring at the empty seat where Casey used to sit. And then she gets called up as well.
Yeah.
We're introduced to Dewey and the sheriff. Sheriff Burke, I think is his name, as well as the principal, which I don't know what the principal's last name was. I think that they said it, but I just, yeah. I know he's played by the Fonz. Hey, but that's all I know.
I don't know who that is.
From Happy Days. You don't have to know. It's fine. They ask her how she is doing and how her dad is doing. Then they ask her about Casey and some other questions, but they keep it brief. He's even like, yeah, we're going to keep this brief. We then see Sydney sitting with Tatum and a couple guys in front of a fountain. We find that these guys are Billy, who we already know is Sydney's boyfriend, Stu, who looks to be with Tatum, and Randy, who is like a tag-along friend.
Yeah.
That weird friend that always exists in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
So, right, for something. They're discussing the murder and how it would have taken a man to have done it. They also go through how they could not have done it because they all have alibis for last night. And the guys are basically like making jokes about it, while Sydney and Tatum are like not thrilled.
No.
So,
yeah, they were all pretty suspicious. Like, whether or not they were the killers or, like, the killers, and they were still acting very suspicious,
Yeah. And I kind of like that. I kind of dig that. You're like, well, I couldn't have done it because I have an alibi. Oh, no, I was at work, or he was with me. But yeah, it was like, before or after you.
It kind of gives the impression, we're still kids, because if it had been an adult, they wouldn't have been like, oh yeah, by the way, I was with this person, so don't suspect me.
Right.
So they're still young, and obviously they're gonna try to tell the people like, oh, don't think it's me, you guys, because this, and the other.
Yeah, I get that. So Sydney is talking about staying over at Tatum's house since her dad is out of town and seems to be specifically bothered by this situation. She then prepares to leave and is watching TV where all that is on about the Woodsboro double murder. And when she flips to a specific channel, it is talking about how a year ago, her mother, Maureen Prescott, was found raped and murdered not far from the town square. So now we get, why she's extra bothered by this situation. And it makes perfect sense why she's a little bit
Yeah. But I like that they didn't outward say it. Like even when she was in the office with the principal, they weren't like, yeah, by the way, a year ago when this happened to your mother, like, you as a viewer had to wait to find out.
Right. So. You had to kind of decipher it.
Yep.
So, yeah, I appreciate that too.
Like that.
She flips the channel off and looks to chill for a second and takes a nap, falling asleep. The sun sets and it goes way past 7 when Tatum was supposed to pick her up. The phone rings, waking her, and it's Tatum saying sorry she is late, but she's on the way, and that she's going to stop by the video store on the way by. She then gets another call, and it's the creepy voice that had been calling Casey.
Yeah.
Hello, Sydney. The voice talks about how the night is like a scary movie. The voice asks her favorite scary movie, and she says she doesn't watch that crap because it's too cliche.
Yeah, all the same is what she's
Yeah,
saying.
she's like, instead of running out the front door, somebody's running outstairs or down upstairs and blah, blah, blah. And she keeps calling him Randy, but the voice is finally like, I'm not Randy. So then she gets a bit freaked out. She asks who he is, and he says the question isn't who he is, but where he is. He says that he's on the front porch, and she calls him on it and goes out and opens the front door. He isn't out there, which I was kind of like, well, you're kind of lucky, bro, because
Yeah,
like
'cause
literally
having been
people
there-
just got killed doing the same thing. But I mean, she wouldn't have known about the phone calls. So
That's fair, but still, you have this guy who's like harassing you on the phone, saying, "This is where I am. I'm watching you." Type, and you're gonna go outside.
yeah,
No. Here, I'm gonna hang up and call 911.
right. So she starts acting like she's picking her nose and asks him to say what she's doing if he can see her, like he's saying he can. So she calls him Randy again, and the voice says if she hangs up on him, she will die just like her mother. And this pisses her off to no end, and she goes back in the house. She's like, you know what, screw you. Unfortunately for her, the killer is in the closet and comes out after her.
He really hated being hung up on.
Yeah, he has no time for that.
No.
He does get her, but she escapes to her room and blocks the door with the closet door like she had done with her dad, which I was like, well, you're lucky.
Yes.
She goes to call the cops via the phone, but it's still fast busy because it was off the hook from downstairs. So uses her PC to dial 911, which
was cool.
Very, very new tech at that point
Can
in
you
time.
still do that?
I'm pretty sure if you have a dial-up mode or the type deal that you could do something like that. Yes. Yep, you can. Because I think that's how deaf people have to do it. I mean, deaf people.
Oh, yeah, true.
I mean, they're not going to call the tele people, and then they're going to have to dial through.
I would.
Well, think about our cell phones.
Yeah, could you text 911?
Yes,
you can.
I'm almost positive.
I think that's a better way to do it because that way you're not speaking while someone's trying to kill you.
Yeah.
Because I think there was a story a little while back where the girls were hiding under the sink, and they didn't want to call 911 because they were terrified the person was going to hear them. So they didn't call.
Yeah, usually they'll be like, I mean, I've seen some, again, true crime,
Yeah.
where the people are on the phone with the 911 and they're like, dude, he's in the room. And they're in their closet. Like, you hear him getting close. And he's like, he's looking for me. And like, they're like, okay, stay on the phone with me. I'll stay quiet. And it's like, man, I used to do that and stuff like that. And there was one where they actually hear the door open and you hear her get shot like 7 times.
Yeah.
While she's on the phone, she's screaming and all that. Man, I couldn't do that job.
I know we were listening to the one podcast. And they had 911 calls, and there was one on there with like a lady, and you could hear her just screaming.
Yeah, no.
I could not work like that. I could not be an operative like that. I could not.
Yeah.
I would have so much operator. Sorry. It would break my heart to hear people literally screaming for my help and not being able to do anything.
Yeah, and then just being like, okay, cops on their way. They're almost there. They're 3 minutes away.
Yeah.
And just know 3 minutes is 3 minutes too long.
3 minutes too long.
Yeah. Yeah, I wouldn't be able to do that.
No.
Or somebody calling being like, oh, my baby's not breathing or something. I'm like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I can't deal with this.
No,
Yeah. So.
This is a really sad podcast.
It is a sad podcast.
A little sad.
So as she's dialing the 911 thing, Billy shows up and climbs through the window. She runs to him saying the killer is in the house, but then a cell phone drops out of his pocket or his hand, and she thinks it's him. So she takes off running out the front door and gets scared by the mask that Dewey's holding up weirdly for some reason. I don't know why he was holding
why
it
was
that,
he holding it like that? Also, why would you run out that door where the murderer was actually? There's no way that he could have gotten down and out to the window that fast.
Right.
So,
there was that, and there was also a little bit of a goof. Remember, she couldn't get out the door because of the chain being on it, and then she just flings it open and Dewey is there.
Oh,
she didn't have to chain it. So I was like, well, but
maybe the killer undid it so that Billy could get in
and pieced out
like that,
Yeah.
Or pieced out.
So
True.
They arrest Billy even though he is saying he is innocent. The cops talk to Sydney as Tatum shows up. She shows up in her car.
She had a nice car.
Yeah, I like the little car. We find that Tatum and Dewey are brother and sister, and Tatum has no respect for Dewey's badge whatsoever.
Oh, are they brothers and sisters?
Mm-hmm.
See, at first, I thought he was with the mom. And I thought he was the mom's sister. Or brother.
No, they're brother and sister. So a reporter shows up and is asking Tatum questions about what happened to Sydney. The reporter then tears into the cameraman for taking too long to get the camera.
She was rude.
As if it's his fault that she got yelled at, because Tatum was like, piss off, basically.
Yep.
Leave Sydney alone. So Sydney is at the police station and they're trying to locate her dad, but he is not at the Hilton like he said he would be, and he's not registered there either. So they don't know where he's at. They're interrogating Billy, whose dad is also there, and they say they will have to hold Billy until they get his phone records to prove he didn't kill anyone, or at least to prove he didn't make the calls. Gail Weathers is the reporter. Gail Weathers, fantastic name, shows up and she barges through the crowd as if she's hot stuff, but then she gets stopped at the front door because she's like, oh, they're not me. I'm going to be able to get up there, but she doesn't get in there.
Yeah.
So the cameraman, Kenny, follows her, but again, they get stopped at the door. Dewey says that the costume can be purchased anywhere, but that they are still trying to pull the records for the phone, so hopefully they'll know who it was. Tatum demands that they let her take Sydney home and gives Dewey more heck. Like, oh, I'm sorry, Officer Dewey guy, sir. So they decide to let her take her, but tell her to go out the back door to avoid the cameras. So Dewey takes them out the back, and they run right into Gail Weathers, who figured out that they might be trying to sneak her out the back door.
Yeah, he's like, I wonder if there's a door back here.
Yeah. Tatum tries to protect Sydney from Gail, but she says it's all right. She's just doing her job. She says it all sarcastically. And then Sydney's like, how's the book going? And Gail's like, oh, it's great. It comes out later this year. And Sydney says she'll look for it. And Gail's like, I'll send you a copy. And Sydney just punches her right in the face, man.
Yeah, real just, you can tell there's history between these two.
Yeah, I was like, oh, okay. So that's with that relationship.
Yeah.
Like she just lays her out so hard she falls back into Kenny, which was funny.
I like that, what's her name?
Tatum?
Tatum was like, I liked how Tatum was like hyping her up. She's like, oh, you just laid her out. Yeah. I thought it was funny.
Yeah, Tatum and Sydney are at Tatum's house discussing if they think Billy actually did it. They get a phone call, and it's the voice calling her saying poor Billy boyfriend got blamed and that Sydney fingered the wrong guy again. And that was important that he said again.
Yeah.
We then see that it was Sydney that testified as the key witness in her mother's murderer case. Sorry, not murder case, murderer case. She testified that it was Cotton Weary that committed the murder. So I guess that is what the voice meant when he said she fingered the wrong guy again.
Yep.
Dewey comes in and tells Sydney that Billy was released as his cell phone records were clean. So now, what's her name? Sydney's feeling kind of heckin' bad.
Yeah, pretty.
She's like, oh, oops.
Yeah.
He does say they're checking all the cell phone records in the county, though, to try and find who made the calls to her. Or, who called Casey as well, because, P.S., don't forget Casey's still dead. Dewey drops them off at school, and the reporters immediately start badgering her. And I love it. Did you hear what he yelled? He's like, she has a right to an education.
No, I didn't hear that.
It was really funny.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I was laughing really funny. It was just, he's like, leave him alone. She has a right to learn, and everything like that. Sydney finds Gail and asks her about her mother's murder. Gail says she says she thinks that Sydney falsely identified Cotton and that he is innocent. I liked it when she first went over to her. She was like, stay away from me. Yeah. She's like, no. Sydney does not seem sure that it was Cotton that murdered her mother anymore. And Gail works out that the murderer seems to be connected. So she's like, oh, heck. She's like, you're not sure yourself that Cotton killed. And so she gets all worked up. Sydney says she should not be at school, and there's people running through the halls all dressed up like the ghost face mask and everything like that, being, like stupid kids would be, which I like.
Which I think is something that would still have happened nowadays.
I agree.
Like, I think kids are still kids.
Somebody would still do something stupid like that. Yep. And then be like, because it's funny.
Yeah.
And people love funny.
And, us living in such a small town as well, that word of that happening would have gotten around, and it just would have happened. Some jerk kids doing something like that, trying to start a riot,
Yeah.
Start a ruckus.
A ruckus. Then Sydney runs into Billy and says she doesn't think it's him anymore. Billy goes into how their relationship hasn't been the same since her mother died.
And this was so weird to me. The first of all, My significant other puts me in jail. The first thing I'm going to say to you isn't going to start talking about this. He was being a jerk, to be honest.
I 100% agree with you.
I think I was like...
It's like, I'm not fine. But, you know, you really need to get over your mother's death.
Yeah, it was a year ago. I know she was raped and killed, but get over it.
Right. It doesn't mean that we can't.
Yeah, why can't we do
blah,
that?
blah,
Yeah,
blah.
and I was like, what?
Yep.
What?
Yep, I thought so too. I thought that was really, like, why? Whoa, you still think it's me? No? Okay, well, why is our relationship so crap?
And I think that would be one of the things I took away from this movie of, like, not being so good, is that they were trying to force that sense. Because, you know, later on when, when Randy talks about, you know, killers needing motives and everything, and they're saying, you know, a motive would be that she wasn't, you know, trying to do anything with him, you know, whatever. So I think they were trying to force that a lot throughout the movie, where they're like, oh, but because Sydney won't do things with Billy, it's because he wants to kill her. Yeah. And so I think that's why the scene was made. But I don't think it was very good. Right. I don't like that about this movie.
I don't think it was necessary, for it, because she's already like, all right, I'm not. But I guess it has to get her to also leave, because otherwise she might have stuck around and hung out with Billy, and we needed them to be separate again. So
well, no, you can say that, you know, because even when they meet up at the party again, I think they're awkward and they're still in that sense, and they're like, we need to talk. So you could have done that and not had this scene at all. Yeah,
I agree with that.
Because it would still have made sense, because he's coming out of jail. Yeah. And, you know, it's awkward as well. Not, he's come out of jail and the first thing he's trying to talk to her about is hooking up. Right. That's just, I'm not even trying to talk to you after that.
I agree with that.
You're just
horrid. Yeah, leave me alone,
good.
Bro.
Yeah, man.
Why is that where you're at? But I mean, a teenage boy, what are you going to do?
Yeah, but the whole thing, what he said about her mother, it's obvious that she loved her very much. Right. No, you're right. And it only being a year old.
Not even yet.
Yeah, not even. You know, it was just a lot.
Right.
It was just
why are you still so upset about your dead mother?
I think that was bad writing on that part.
Yeah, so. I'll give you that. So she runs off crying, and Billy is feeling kind of stupid, because he's like, stupid. He literally says it. We then see the principal giving the two boys that ran through the hall a serious ration and expelling them for their antics. He's like, you're expelled. You're done. He also kind of goes on about the whole running the scissors down them and stuff like that. But I'm like, yeah, you do that to kids for real.
Yeah, you do that nowadays, and they're going home and suing the school.
And yeah, you just got a lawsuit, brother. You don't have to worry about kicking them out because you don't have a job.
Yeah.
We find that Sydney has gone to the bathroom to clean up, and there are two girls in there saying that they think that Sydney is the killer, because she's so messed up in the head.
Yeah, really roughened up.
And they also trash all over her mother. Yeah. Like, they're like, yeah, she was straight trash, and, you know, who hasn't she slept with in the town?
Which I understand, having to give it to it was like kind of like, to give to the audience.
Right. You know, you needed the information, but clearly more and more people, it's not just Gail, it's not just Cotton, it's everybody saying, you know, your mom was kind of a trash. Yeah. Sydney had hid in one of the stalls while they were talking, and she comes out. She hears her name being called, and then sees feet come down from top of one of the toilets wearing the Ghostface costume. She's able to escape and run out of the bathroom in time, and she just like runs out to school. So, you know, this is a really weird part as well.
This scene didn't make sense to me. Unless it had been one of the jerk kids dressed up, you know? Yeah. Because how would you have known that she was going into the bathroom?
Very true.
And then B, both Billy and Stu go off in different directions from the bathroom. Yeah. And there's no way that she would have run into that one.
Right. You would have had to pre-plan being in there, knowing that she would have been, and it couldn't have been, it absolutely couldn't have been Billy. Yeah. Because she ran from him.
And then somehow knowing that she's in the bathroom. Right. Like, because, you know, you're in the stall, and the stalls don't have that way where you can see. Like, how would you have known?
Yeah. So maybe it was filmed out of context, where it should have been one of the boys, maybe. You know what I'm saying? Right, like, first she does that.
If you think of the hallway, do you remember? So there was the hallway, and then she was talking to Stu and Tatum. Right. And then she walked off, and they went to, like, the left. Yeah. And that's where she met Billy. And then Billy made her cry and go to the bathroom. Yeah. There's no way that either of them could have entered.
Yeah,
it just
so
doesn't make
might
sense.
probably just somebody else.
So it had to
around.
have been some other kid. But then also, how did he know that it's one of those things again that the bad writing on this part. It didn't seem necessary.
So supposedly there was also a cutscene right here where she goes and runs to the principal in the office and is all upset of what's happening with people messing with her and everything like that. And that's why then he makes the announcement where he's canceling school.
Oh.
So it's very possible. I think it was just somebody else just screwing with her.
Because it didn't seem like he had a
jerks.
knife. Yeah, it didn't seem like...
he was just messing with her. Yeah, I agree with that. I don't think it was supposed to... And if it was supposed to be one of them, then...
Well, you know, I guess she kind of... maybe they were in each of the girls' bathroom to see if she would go in. Because she does kind of say something in the mirror. She said something to herself. So maybe the kid was like, oh my gosh, she's in my bathroom. And he's like, this is my moment. And then he goes, Sydney. You know? Yeah. So maybe it was like that.
I agree.
Yeah. Yeah.
So... Again, the principal announces overhead that all classes have been canceled until further notice, and the police have been placed a curfew on the town for 9 p.m.
Early.
Yeah, well, it's like what's going on right now in real life. We also find out that they still cannot find Sydney's father, which is important information. Stu says that he is having an impromptu party and invites everyone, and Sydney agrees to come at the coaxing of Tatum. She's like, come on, it'll be fun. She's like, okay, I'll go. Every episode.
Oh, sorry.
Every episode. God bless you.
I think it's being down here with the dog hair and everything. It sets me off.
So,
but I think that was weird that she would have gone along with it because... You know, there's a murderer out, and you know, obviously he's after you, so your safest bet to go stay with a bunch of people.
Better than being alone.
I mean, okay, yeah, I know that sounds bad, but a bunch of teenage people.
Yeah,
I would rather be with a bunch of adults.
I can hear that. I can feel that. I'd rather been in the middle of the police station.
Yeah, that too.
Sitting there in a chair.
That too.
Lonely.
You know, I'd rather have been like, this person's harassing me. He was literally at my house. Let me stay at the police station.
Yeah.
You know, it's not gonna be comfortable, but I'd rather be there where people with guns.
Yeah, that's fair. So, meanwhile, the principal is screwing around in his office with the mask, and someone keeps knocking on his door and running off. He goes to investigate it, because, you know, he's like, of course, I have to go investigate the noise. And he runs into the janitor, and I like it because he's dressed like Freddy Krueger.
Yeah,
and he's also called
that.
Fred.
Yeah.
Sorry, Fred. Because he's like, what did you call me?
I liked that they added that in. It was nice.
Yeah, I thought that was fun. Especially being Wes Craven and everything like that. You know, Nightmare on Elm Street and everything.
Yes.
So.
Yep.
So the principal returns to his office and checks out in his closet, which is empty. But then he goes to close the door, and the killer is behind him or behind the door and stabs him out, killing him.
Yeah, I saw that coming. So
yeah,
that was not as good of a lead up as the other one's been, but
still decent.
It was there.
So Tatum and Sydney are discussing Sydney's mother and how she was a bit on the promiscuous side. We also see the killer running around in the background, which was a bit weird.
Yeah, I thought that was weird because it's just
some of the times when I'm like, why?
And I wonder if they did it to add it to make you like throw off of the other two. Because then the next scene is them at the video store together.
Yep.
So you're like, oh, well, when could they have done that? So it just didn't make a lot of sense sometimes. Yeah. But
Randy is working at the movie rental store and talking to Stu. They're discussing Billy and how he could be the killer. Or Randy's like, he is the killer. Randy goes over how Billy could be the killer, and Stu says he thinks it's Sydney's father. Randy also hopes to have a shot with Sydney, but Stu shoots that idea down pretty hardcore. He's like, no. Yeah. And I don't think you can have anything to do with that. Randy freaks out saying that there is a formula to scary movies and that Billy is the killer, but then runs right into Billy.
Then Billy goes off on him.
Yep. Billy
suggests... but in a scary way, not even like yelling. He was just all intense and quiet.
Billy even suggests that Randy could be the killer. And Randy's like, yeah, absolutely, I could be the killer as well. It's the millennium.
It could be anyone. Anyone here is a subject. Yep. Yeah.
So the town is closing down for curfew, and everyone is freaked out. Like, mom's grabbing babies up all hard and everything like that. I'm like, why would you even be out there in the first place picnicking? It ain't picnic time. People are getting gutted like fish.
Yeah.
Dewey is basically babysitting Sydney with Tatum close by.
Question. So as
Yeah.
a parent, had like the first time Casey dies, would you have sent us to school still?
Absolutely not. In fact,
You
if
would have
there's,
kept us home?
we might have left town. I'm not even joking. I mean,
That's fair.
There's a serial killer on the loose, killing people. It's not just random.
Killing young
There's
women.
something freaky
Yeah.
going on, and it's school related. I can't see sticking around there. Why am I going to stay?
Yeah.
You know, and no. But then again, you might just be like, no, I want to stay. Meh, I want to go to this party.
Oh my gosh. If you had let me go to that party, that was on you as a bad parent.
That's bad parenting.
That's bad parenting. If I came home and I was like, hello, Dad. I know this girl just got killed, but my friends want to go have a party. It's just me and a bunch of kids. That's it, no adults. And you're like, that sounds like a good idea. Yeah, that's on you as a parent. If I die, that's on you.
That's fair.
So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they kind of make a joke about her story, like, was made into a movie. Who would play her? And she said, sadly, it would probably be Tori Spelling who got cast. And this is a funny thing. I know you don't know who Tori Spelling is, and that's fine. But in the sequel, there's a movie about her story that is actually coming out. It's called Stab, and I'm pretty sure that Tori Spelling is cast as her. So that's what. Yeah. So it was funny that foreshadowing even into the next movie like that. And yeah, it's called Stab. So, the girls go to the store to pick up snacks, and Sydney talks about how Billy has been very patient with her and all of her hang-ups. And I'm like, are you victim shaming yourself?
Yeah, what the heck?
We then again see the Ghostface killer in the background in the reflection of the the cooler, and I'm like, are people just running around after Sydney dressed up like the Ghostface killer? Because that's really jerky. You know, I don't think it's supposed to be.
Oh,
the
you
killer.
know what? What was that? What's that one cult organization thing with the smiley face? Do you remember hearing about that?
No.
I think it was like the smiley face killers or something like that, but it was a group of people who were running around leaving smiley faces on things and just murdering people to freak people out.
No.
Yeah, I think maybe that was fake. Smiley face kill. Yeah, no, see?
No,
it's a theory advanced retired New York City detectives. Yeah.
So not real?
No, it is.
Oh.
The term smiley face became connected to the alleged murders when it was made public that the police discovered graffiti depicting a smiley face near locations where they think the killer dumped the bodies in at least dozens of cases.
Oh, wow.
Like, it was like a bunch of people.
Wow.
So it was intense. I mean, this was, I don't remember, 1997.
Huh. So a year after this.
Yeah. Maybe it inspired them.
Maybe.
Maybe it was a bunch of people running around. But yeah, stuff like that.
Weird. But I'm not sure why they keep showing them. I mean, they just, they're behind the tree, they're in the reflection, they're in the toilet, whatever. It's people messing with Sydney. Like he said, you can buy that outfit at any 5 and dime store.
Yeah, and you know what? There have been times where there's been cases where people see things happening and they're like, you know what? I can do this too.
Like copycat killers?
Copycat killers. Yeah. So maybe that's what it was. Maybe people were like, or other kids were like, you know what? I don't like, or this girl, because she was popular dating a football player and then she died. So maybe like, you know what? I can do this too. I'll kill some girl that rejected me, or I'll kill some boy who rejected me, stuff like that. Because I think, when they're outside the high school the first time when they're all introduced, Stu even says to to Randy, he's like Randy, or maybe Randy said something to Stu about how she dumped him for the football.
Didn't you date him?
Yeah. So then it was like, then you're like, oh, so maybe Stu, they killed her first because of what she did to Stu,
right? And
then we're gonna move on to Sydney,
right? And didn't like Steve because of the whole situation.
So you can assume that other people could have done the same thing.
Sure.
So copycat killer. So maybe that's why they had a bunch of people running around, because it could have been. It was just like to throw off the scent, but also having where people were legitimately harassing her, at school. Could have been at her house.
That's fair.
So.
Yeah.
Just people trying to make their mark in the world. Again, back on the unique thing, trying to be unique in their own person, trying to do something to stand out. So,
Sweet layer onion.
it's a really good. I like this movie a lot because
Very,
it
very
really
layered.
makes you think.
I like that.
So
Onions everywhere.
onions everywhere.
So Dewey is returning to the station with some ice cream that he got, and the sheriff stops him to tell him that the calls that were coming to them, he finally got traced, and it was coming from Sydney's dad's phone. Dewey does bring up that the phone could have been cloned, but they're like, yeah, we're not sure. Because he's still missing. So it's like, where's this guy at?
Right.
The sheriff tells Dewey to stay close to Sydney and not to let her out of his sight. Dewey later drops the girls off at Stu's house for the party and says to be careful.
Yeah, as a policeman, also, how could you have done this?
Right. Literally know that
your sister and her friend. How could you have done that?
Yeah. So Gail Weathers is also at the party with Kenny, the cameraman, and Dewey catches them in their van, kind of staking the place out. They have a discussion, and Gail asks to join Dewey as he says he's going to go check out the party. So Tatum gives Dewey more heck, which I love. You know, their relationship is fun for me, about having brought Gail into the party, while Sydney asks about her father, who is still yet to be found. Tatum goes out to get a beer for Stu because she's like, "What am I, the beer wench?" Because he's like, "Give me a beer."
Yes, and this scene I remember.
This is the one you remember?
This is the one that I remembered from watching it because it's just so horrible.
Yeah, the Ghostface killer ends up there and attacks her. She does a pretty good job to fight him off.
You know, and it seems like a lot of the times where he's in a fight scene with somebody else, he just gets beat up. You know, he's not very good at being a killer.
It's not superhero.
No.
And I actually like that.
Yes.
He's not, because sometimes you see where these people have like this superhero strength for some reason against everybody else, but then when they fight the heroine or the hero or whatever, all of a sudden they're able to get fought off, or they're not as good as an aim, or they talk too much or something like that. That didn't really happen with this movie.
Nope.
So yeah, I agree. I like that a lot. But yeah, she tries to escape out the cat door for whatever reason,
and
she gets
squashed.
She gets squished.
It's horrible.
Yeah, it's all juicy noise too.
Yeah, and you can even see where the face gets all indented. It's awful. I don't understand how she couldn't have just backed out of it though.
She could have, man, but I guess she was stuck with gravity. Had her arm and everything stuck, and she couldn't get herself out. But
that would be a horrible way to die.
She had to die, and that was a juicy way to kill her. So what are you gonna do? Then the door seems to swing open that was locked, and the killer is able to get out of it instead of having to go out another way. So this alludes to there being two or more people involved. Yeah. Did you notice that? Because it's like the door was locked when she went to it, and now it opened. I mean, it didn't just unlock; it opened for them. And I was like, okay, that's convenient. Yeah. So we then see that the party looks to be over, and everyone is leaving. Stu is talking to Sydney when Billy shows up, and he didn't just show up, he launches himself at the door all freaky. And
I thought it was weird that they showed, because everyone's leaving, so you're like, okay, but I had remembered that they sit in front of the TV and the dude goes over the rules, right? And then those people are on the TV and then they leave. So it was was there an inner circle and then a more inner circle?
It seemed like there was everybody from school, and then a smaller group of kids from school.
It seemed like the party really hadn't lasted that long. It seemed like everyone showed up, and then Sydney showed up, and then the girl died, and everyone just left. Yeah, I agree with that. It wasn't a very long, but I think it was longer than what it alludes to it being. Maybe because they saw the cops show up, they were like, I don't want to be here. This is going to be a lame party. So Stu tells them to go up to his parents' room to talk, and she's like, okay, yeah, I think we need to talk. And I'm like, sheep. Yeah, for sure. Randy is disappointed to see that Billy is there because he was hoping to get with Sydney. He also says he's going to go check on them, which was weird. He's like, I think I'll go check on them. He never did. No, not that we saw anyway. We cut to Kenny in the camera van, who finally gets the live feed from the camera that Gail placed to work. However, there's a bit of a delay, about 30 seconds.
Billy and Sydney are up in Stu's parents' room, and they finally hook up where Sydney was holding out due to her grief from her mother's death, which I'm like, okay. I mean, I guess it has to happen for the movie, but at the same time, it's kind of like, you really guilted yourself into something where you shouldn't have.
Yeah.
I feel kind of bad for you. You have every right to be as distraught about your mother dying as you want to be.
Yeah, especially how she died was so important. Like, she was raped and killed. And then you have where, like later on, he even says, he's like, oh yeah, I killed your mother. So
right.
He raped and killed her mother.
Right.
Which is not talked about again. And it was like, yeah.
Right.
Really weird. Because they were together during that time as well. So it's like, why?
Yeah.
Why would you kill? Because he's all angry because he's like, oh, well, she was sleeping with my dad. And then he goes and he rapes her.
I gotta tell you, man, I'm gonna get, as soon as the DVD is available, I'm gonna get the one with 1, 2, and 3 on it so you can watch those. Because in the sequels, this stuff is even explored even deeper.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and it's actually really cool.
Good, because it didn't make a lot of sense to me.
Yeah.
I was like, why?
Yeah, Cotton is in part 2, and because he's freed, and Sydney's at college, and then in part 3, it has to do with another character coming, and they have to go out to Hollywood and stuff like that, I think, and stuff like that. It's really cool the way that it happens. I think you would like it.
Well, it's good, because, sequels sometimes aren't that good.
Yeah,
so.
these did, like I said, I never saw 4. So at that point in time, I was kind of like, really? I mean, at this point, come on, everybody's that could be part of this should be dead. So I don't know.
Yeah.
So Sydney also comes a bit clean about how her mother was a person that she fears that she will be turned into, which might be why she was holding out like she was, because she's like, maybe my mom was kind of a...
I would have been holding out because my mom was raped and killed.
Yeah.
I would have been like, I don't really want to,
be going down this path right now. Right. I'm kind of depressed. So Billy says that life is just one big movie, but that you get to pick your genre. Meanwhile, Randy is basically giving the rules of surviving a horror movie to a smaller crowd of people that are still sticking around at Stu's party. So there's 8 of them, I guess, maybe.
Yeah,
Dewey takes Gail to look for a car that was pushed into the bushes nearby, or at least was reported to, and they figure they would walk. So more people leave from Stu's party while Randy and crew watch the movie Halloween. That's what's on in the background. Yeah, the movie is Halloween. A call comes in and Randy answers it. And it turns out to be that the principal was gutted and hung from the goalpost at the school football field. So the rest of the crew that was sticking around to watch the movie takes off.
They wanted to go see the dead body.
Yeah,
so I was gonna say
before they pull him down.
Yeah, earlier I was gonna say I didn't really understand why they killed the principal, but then I understand
to get rid of more people.
To get rid of more people.
Yep.
Which was weird to me. Why would they have called to be like, yeah, by the way, the principal's dead? I would have waited to tell everybody.
Who would have even called? Because everybody was at that party. So,
true.
How did the cops not know?
Yeah, sometimes when they'll call they'll call out the parents, and they'll be like, "Oh, school's canceled for tomorrow." Or when we had in the middle school had that teacher die, earlier this year.
Okay.
I didn't know him, so it didn't really affect me.
Okay.
But a lot of my friends did know had him. But they sent out an email to all the parents and everything, and was like, "So and so's died." Blah blah blah. So I guess maybe. But it didn't make sense to me why they were called instantly. Someone, he literally was still up there,
I took it as if it was a group of kids that were out somewhere, overheard something, went and saw this, and then they called because that's where all the rest of the school was at that party. Mm-hmm. And they were like, "Oh, you guys got to get over here quick because principals are hung up here," which is kind of morbid that everybody wants to go see the dead body hanging. But hey, you know what? It's high school, so what are you going to do?
Yeah. True.
So Randy resumes watching the movie. Dewey and Gail get run off the road by the people that leaving the party, and then they kiss when they land, which was kind of a nice little sweet romance going on between them because they're very unlikely.
I didn't really like their dynamic.
You did?
No, I didn't. I didn't like it. It was creepy. Dewey made me feel uncomfortable. Well, I know Dewey from Shark Boy and Lava Girl as the dad in that. So it was already kind of weird, but then... they felt forced, in my opinion. It just felt unnatural and weird.
I gotcha.
He creeps me out a little bit, so.
So, it's kind of lucky that they rolled down the hill where they did because they happened upon the car that they were looking for, and it turns out to be Sydney's father's car. So, he's like, oh my gosh, what's he doing here? So, they go to rush back to the party.
Right, as the suspected killer.
Right.
Because, I knew who it ends up being before watching that movie because I've just seen
right,
where it is. So, but even as watching it, I was like, they really do set it up to be like the dad that's doing it.
Yeah.
It's fairly, it's
He's
really
supposedly
good.
going out of town. It's been a year since his wife killed. I mean, everything is spot on. Sydney and Billy are getting dressed, and she is questioning him about who he called with his one phone call at the police station. Billy asks her what he has to do to prove that he's not a killer when the Ghostface killer appears and looks to stab Billy out. So, I mean, when I saw that the first time, I was like, oh. Well, all right.
Yeah,
then.
I guess it's not Billy.
I guess it's not Billy. And here this whole time, I've been thinking it was Billy.
Yeah.
And I never suspected Stu, really.
Oh, I did.
I didn't.
After that first time when they were there, and he was like, "I'm not a murderer, man." I was like, "Yeah."
Oh, you could be a murderer.
Yeah. And then after, even when he was like saying, she dumped me and everything, I was like, "Yeah, you have motive, and you're also acting very suspiciously." So, yeah. He's also crazy.
He is crazy, but I like his craziness.
I do as well. He's probably
so random and crazy, and I'm just like, dude.
He's very funny as well.
Yes.
That time, so.
So after he stabs him out, he then chases Sydney, who runs through the house and makes it to a window. Because remember, this is Stu's house, not her house.
Yes.
She goes out onto the roof where the killer almost gets to her, but she falls backward and lands on a boat below.
I don't understand how that didn't kill her, to be honest.
Even with a cover on.
You're landing on something horrible.
I think you would have hurt yourself way more. I get it's a movie.
Yes.
But, bro,
But being a boat and having the steering wheel, the glass, chairs,
all kinds of other
wood,
stuff, you would have landed ugly.
You would have been dead.
You'd have been hurt.
Yes.
Other than just
jank.
Getting down a bit. But when she does get down, she looks up and discovers Tatum's body stuck in the cat door.
Oh,
of the
what a
garage.
horrible! Her best friend.
Yeah, that would have been
horrible. And to have died so brutally. I mean, I'd rather gut me like a fish and hang me up. Don't put me in the cat door in the garage. That's so tough, man. Oh man.
So, meanwhile, Randy is drunk and talking to the movie he is watching about turning around while the killer comes up behind him, which was kind of funny because he's like, turn around.
Ironic.
He's about to get stabbed out when the killer hears Sydney outside screaming. So then Sydney runs to the van where Kenny is there, and they see the killer on the screen about to stab out Randy.
And they're like,
turn around, kid, behind you, Randy. And Kenny opens the door, forgetting about the 30-second delay. And then he sees that the front door is open, and he turns around again and just gets his throat slashed.
I gotta give it to my man Kenny. He looked like he was gonna go try and save the kid.
He did look like he was gonna go save him.
I liked Kenny.
Yeah, he got a bad rap.
Yeah, he got bad rap.
So the killer kind of stabs Sydney in the arm or the shoulder.
Yeah, and I'm just done.
But. You're just gonna
you
lay
get
down
my
dead.
shoulder, I'm just gonna lie down.
But she's able to escape out the back of the van through a small hole. As she runs off, Dewey and Gail are running back to the house. So everything's kind of coming to a head now. Yeah. Dewey sends Gail to the van to call the sheriff because she's like, "Oh, I got a cell phone in the car." While he goes and checks out the house, Gail makes it to the van and sees the blood, so she's freaked out a bit and starts calling 911. When Randy shows up to the window and she passes him in the head with the phone and drives off. She's like, bam, bam, bam.
Yeah.
There's blood all over the windshield. And it's because Kenny's dead body is up on the roof. It kind of flops forward on her.
And I appreciate that he had the time to do things with each of the bodies.
Yeah.
He kept wanting to do things to make it stand out somehow.
Nice. So Gail is driving erratically when Sydney jumps out in front of the van yelling for her to stop. And instead, Gail swerves and goes down a hill, crashing into a tree. And kind of looks like she might have been marked out. She might be dead. Sydney runs back to the house looking for Dewey, who comes out the front door and looks to have been stabbed in the back by the killer because he's got a knife sticking in his back. Sydney makes it to the cop car and locks the doors, but the killer has the keys. And did you like that little point where he's just like, like dangles them at him, and then he messes with her, popping locks up.
I really like this because you can see in the background the door slowly open,
yep,
and then him crawl in.
Yep.
And it was just so well done. Like, if you were just paying it, if you were just looking at her like, oh, which one's going to go next, you wouldn't have seen that. It's very subtle.
He drops down so she can't see him, and then all of a sudden, he's popping locks, so she's watching all the locks of the door, not even paying attention to the trunk door of the Jeep, and it swings open. The killer gets in and attacks Sydney, but again, she escapes. So it's like, you're relatively lucky.
She was very lucky.
Randy shows up saying that he thinks Stu is the killer, but then Stu shows up saying that Randy is the killer. And he's like, oh, no, it's you. Yeah, which again is...
And he's like, give me the gun, give me the gun.
Yep. The whole time, Sydney has taken the gun from Dewey's holster and is pointing it at them. So she goes back to the house, leaving them outside, and locks the door. Sydney then hears Billy upstairs yelling for her. As he falls down the stairs, he looks to be in bad shape.
And you know what? It was at this point where I realized, like, had I not known who it was, I would have caught it here. Because there's no holes in his shirt. And she kind of goes to, like, check.
Yeah.
And he just dismisses her. And he's like, no, stop. Yeah. And then she just drops it. But there's no way after getting... Because he had, like, several cut holes. Yeah. And after seeing that, him, like, get sliced up like that and laying flat, I would have been like, let me see.
Yeah, that's true.
Because then no. That's when I would have known. There was no knife cut. There were no cuts in the fabric.
I got you.
It was just the blood.
Yeah. Yep. So he tells Cindy give him the gun, which she does, and he goes to the front door and opens it, letting Randy in, and then he just shoots Randy, and tastes the blood that's on his shirt, saying it's corn syrup. And I was like, wow. All right, ba-boom, boom. Now you know who the killer is.
Yeah, now you know who it is. And then, yeah, because Stu comes in.
Well, you knew it was him for sure, but then Cindy turns to run, but runs right into Stu, and he's just kind of standing there all creepy voice, or creepy-faced, and he holds up the little voice changer and says, surprise, Sydney. So now you're like, oh, snap. It's both
It's the two of them, yeah.
Which was really cool. So, boom, your head turns out, just blows up. Two killers. She tries to run, but Billy stops her. She asks what they are doing it for, but they give crap answers, like just, run-of-the-mill stuff. She says that they will never get away with it, but then Billy says how easy it was to frame Cotton Weary for the murder of her mother, and they'll be able to do it again, which was like, wow, way to tie all this together.
Yeah.
Not only she did in fact frame this poor guy, or not frame, but finger this poor guy that did not kill anybody, and most likely was just having an affair with her mother. And sorry you didn't want to believe your mom is trash, but turns out she kind of was.
I mean, yeah, but if you're in her position, what are you supposed to do?
Right, and all the evidence pointed that way.
You want to send someone away.
Right. She once again asks why, and Billy tells her first that he doesn't believe in motives, just like a good movie. However, then Billy goes into another motive, that because Sydney's mother was hooking up with his father, it caused his mother to abandon him. And
I like that this wasn't, like, it obviously wasn't something that he and Stu had talked about.
Nope.
Because Stu was surprised.
Yep.
He was like, oh.
Yep.
Because it seemed like they had, like, discussed it, and that obviously Stu's reason for killing was to kill the girl because she had broken up with him for the other dude.
Yep.
Which was like, oh, then why were you with Tatum? Obviously you've got something going on. But then he kills her, probably.
Right.
So it was like, I don't understand. But, it was something stupid like that, little reason, like we were talking about earlier. And then he was probably like, oh, well, it's because she won't do anything with me. And so Stu was like, okay, we'll just go along with it. Let's just kill her. And then to hear that, like, I would have been shocked as well. I would have been like, oops, we did not talk about that.
Yep. So then Stu says he has a surprise for Sydney and brings in her father. So basically they have it all set up to make it look like the father's the killer, which I was like, wow, they really did actually do a really good job.
Yeah.
So then in order to make it look like they were attacked as well, they stab each other with the knife. Cindy says they are sick and have seen one too many scary movies.
No, this was really weird to me because I understand stabbing each other to make it seem like, it's not us. But then Billy gets like angry at Stu and just starts slicing and dicing him.
He's angry, and he's like almost just taking it out on, like he's just like as he's just stabbed because he just feels like stabbing something, so he just keeps. But he does. He stabs him a couple times
to make it even
once.
Yeah. And then he's like, oh, that really hurt. Me. Yep. And then, because it almost seemed like I was going to ask, like, if that was something that was cut. Because it didn't show him getting cut. We turn back, and then he's all cut up.
I think he's just slicing him up, and it's just implied that's what's happening. And I don't know. I don't think that he cared if Stu lived or died. No. To tell you the truth. I think he was just worried about himself.
Because they even had him kept saying, he was like, we're the ones that live, we're the ones that survive. Yeah. And Billy was not saying anything.
Yep.
So maybe it was his plan all along to be like, no.
Yep. Billy says not to blame the movies to Sidney because, he's quoting the movies, talking about the different movies and this, that, and the other, and tells Stu to get the gun. Stu goes to get it, but can't find it. We then find that Gail is still alive, and she has the gun. She cocks it and points it at them, giving her her ending of what the quote unquote movie is, where she saves the day. Mm. Unfortunately, she has the safety on the gun and can't shoot, so Billy drop kicks her in the chest out the door, and she lands on Dewey all knocked out. He puts the gun to her head, but doesn't shoot. He's about to shoot her from like the door level when Stu tells Billy that Sidney and her dad are missing as well. Then the phone rings and it's Sidney using the voice disguiser. I like this. Saying that she just called the police and reported them. And I liked it too. Yeah, I thought that was really cool because it flipped the script. Where now she's hidden and they're the
freaking
victims.
Out. Yeah.
Yep. Billy searches the house for her while Stu talks.
He was going insane. Billy was freaking out.
Yep.
He was like ripping up pillows.
Yep.
Cutting all everything. Crazy. And then Stu was just sad. He's like
on the phone with her.
Yeah, and he throws the phone at him, and he's like, "Man, you just hit me with the phone. That hurt."
Do you know that was actually not supposed to happen? Really? It slipped out of Billy's hand, and it hit him, and he's like, "You hit me with the phone." and the director left it in because he thought it was just so natural that it happened that way that he really liked how it happened.
Yeah, and then he's on the phone with her, and he's like, "Did you really call the police?" Yep. She's like, "Yeah." He's like, "My mom's gonna be so mad."
I was like,
and then my favorite quote comes from this actually, and we haven't done favorite quotes in a while.
Yeah,
but because she's like, "What was your motive, Stu?" I was asking Billy, "What's your motive?" And what are you gonna say? And he's like, "Peer pressure. I'm far too sensitive." And I was like, "Oh, that's it. You just sold me."
Yeah, I'm like, I was so sad. I was like, "Man, it's too bad you're a bad guy because I really like you."
It's too bad you're insane.
Yeah, too bad you're insane.
Bipolar. For sure, right here.
So Billy is walking by a closet and thinks she is in there, which she is, but she comes out wearing the Ghostface outfit and stabs Billy with an umbrella, seemingly killing him. Which I was like, well, that would be a horrible way to get killed, but okay.
And I'm not stopping there. She impaled him in like the shoulder and he falls.
Yeah.
I'm gonna do a lot worse than that to make sure you're dead.
I agree.
You're getting the umbrella through the face type deal.
Yeah, we're going that in your mouth. Eye sockets.
Yeah. Oh, I might not have the stomach for that, but I understand.
Yeah.
Eye sockets would be a little rough.
Well, it hits the brain, so it kills you.
Yeah, but you're gonna pop the eyeball. They pop.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to hear that.
I wouldn't want to see that. You're gonna feel it too.
Yeah. Okay, so I'll just stab in the heart.
No.
So Stu comes out and sees that Billy's quote unquote dead and attacks Sidney, but she fights him off and drops the TV on his head, killing him.
What a way to die. What a scene. We've had a lot of death scenes in this movie that were just bizarre. And this is what I'm going into with, like, this would have been worldwide news, because they would have reported in on how each of the people died and everything. Yeah. And I would have, like, hearing about that, and there would have been, like, some kind of spun-off movie about it eventually, and seeing that.
Right.
I mean, this would have blown up. What a way to die. Death by TV.
Yeah.
Again, throwback to Fright Night. Or not Fright Night, but,
Lost Boys.
Death by stereo. Yeah.
So Sidney goes back to look at Billy, and Randy comes in as well. But Billy attacks him and then almost stabs out Sidney. Like, he punches poor Randy right in the face again. I'm like, just stop. He's like, I probably should be dead. And then yoink right in the face. So just as Billy's about to stab Sidney, we hear a gunshot, and it's Gail. And she came in and shot him up.
Didn't have the safety on that time.
Yeah. Did you remember to keep the safety on? Which I thought was classic. I was like, nice. Sidney checks Billy by kicking his leg, and he looks dead, but comes back for one last jump scare, and she shoots him dead in the head. Yeah. Now he's dead. Her dad then comes out of the closet, still bound up with tape, which could have been another little secondary jump scare if you weren't expecting it, and I like that.
Yeah.
We then see that Dewey is still alive as well as he's being loaded into an ambulance. Gail does what Gail does and starts to do an exclusive report.
With the brand new reporter not even caring about Kenny.
Poor Kenny.
Oh my gosh. He was the real victim here.
Yep. And then we fade to black and get one last little scare face on the screen as it does a quick flash of the ghost face, and then that's it. So, your overall thoughts on the film and experience?
Movie ends. I think it's a really good movie for its time, especially and to be able to be still relatable and scare me now, without any kind of fancy effects at all. It shows that it was such a good movie as well. So I mean, very good. Favorite character? Favorite character
would be Stu.
Yeah, mine. Mine was Stu as well.
I really like Matthew Lillard. I like his acting. I like how he is. I like how he got this part, and he just makes me laugh. And again, his little lines and his behavior just really do it for me.
He did really. I mean, he is a psychopath character. He just plays it very well.
Yeah, he gets all spitty mouth and everything that when he's talking. He's lost his mind. He's insane.
Yep.
And I appreciate that. He really sold me on that. I'm like, I believe you.
Yeah.
I believe you.
Yeah. Least favorite character?
Least favorite character is Sydney.
Mine is also Sydney.
Just because I'm like, you're going to sit here and be all, and then you're going to be all, and then,
Yeah.
Sheep, man. I don't care for it.
No,
I don't care.
Like
oh, you know what? He has been really patient with me because I've really been, unjustifiably sad about my mother being raped and murdered and found gutted. I'm sorry. How about you tell this guy, look, bro, if you can't care enough about me to understand that I'm going through some stuff and just be there for me, then
let's not be together. Yeah.
Peace out.
I'm gonna go dance with Randy.
Right. Randy, good guy.
Yep. I guess.
Well, he seems like a good guy.
Yeah.
He's a little nutty, too.
A little nutty, yeah.
But I'll take it.
But he's nutty about movies, so it's fine.
Right, that makes it okay.
Yeah. What's your favorite scene?
Stu getting hit with the phone.
That was mine.
Dang, we are on
I said
point today.
Stu at the end being upset when he got hit with the phone. Yeah. That was my favorite scene.
Which is a completely impromptu, not even supposed to have happened scene. Yeah. But I really like that part.
Favorite death? Bonus question.
Favorite death would have been Tatum. I liked when she got squished and it made the noise and her head get all. Yeah. So that would be mine. Yours?
I think that one too. That one or the TV one.
We are
death by TV.
We are on it.
Yeah. Move rating?
Move rating is a 4.5.
I gave it a 4.
Did you?
Yeah, 4 to 5.
I think for horror, as far as horror movies, we've been talking a lot about horror, and I think that this.
Yeah, I think I would give it a 4.5. I think the only 0.5 that I would have given off for this movie was those couple of parts that I talked about where it seemed unnecessary for it to be there.
Right.
And then also some of the characters' relations with each other.
Right.
But for the most part, I really enjoyed this movie.
But this was a longer movie, and I enjoyed that they let the movie be told. They didn't cut out, even though some of those scenes probably could have been, they let it be told. And I enjoy that because if they had cut some of that stuff out, it may have made it seem a little bit more choppy. So, I don't know. I like it.
Yeah.
Would you recommend it to a friend?
I would. I almost watched this with some friends, actually.
Oh.
But it didn't end up working out. I couldn't stream it over my computer.
Gotcha.
So...
Gotcha.
But it was really close.
That's very cool, man. I dig that you chose this movie. I'm glad that we finally got it in.
Yep, I really wanted to do this one. So I'm glad we did this one.
Right, because you finally got a decent horror movie, in your opinion.
Yep.
So.
Well, I hope I don't, and I haven't seen anyone disagree with what I've said so far, and I know people like to do that, but I hope that people do continue see where I'm coming from with it.
I think that you justify.
Yeah, and I know sometimes it doesn't in my head it makes sense to me, and I know sometimes I can't really get that across. But I think I do for the most part.
Well, no, I think what you do is you say, hey, here's why I feel this way, and here's because, and here's a justifiable reason. Regardless if somebody agrees or disagrees, at least you have a viable reason of why you feel that way. You don't just say, well, I didn't like her because, she had black hair. Well,
yeah.
So, I mean, you give a good reason. And I think, people might say, well, it's not a very good reason, but they still understand your reasoning.
Once in the 5th grade, I was in a math class, and I've always been in the classes where they have like a helper, like a teacher helper, and there was one that I always fought with because I was very opinionated, and I was like, this is how I want to do this, and I won't do it any other way. And I think I was reading a book in math class, and she was like, put your book away, and I was like, I don't want to put my book away, and I was just stubborn, and because like when I'm in really into a book, which is very rare for me sometimes nowadays, but like with reading The Maze Runner and everything, I will read that during class. I don't even care. You get that
from your mother.
I do not even care. So I don't even I whatever. But she took me on to the hallway. She was like, step outside the class, which was horrible, and I almost started crying. But she was like, one of these days you're gonna be really good at debate because you're always fighting me and arguing with me, and that just made me think of that because
nice,
opinionated. But that experience really hurt me.
Well,
that teacher was a jerk.
Either way,
I think her name was Miss Fargo.
It's good.
If you're listening, I hate you.
Oh, jeez. This is such a rough episode. And you're lucky it's not the 80s, Miss Fargo, or else you might be
exactly. You know what?
Oh, no.
Jeez. I didn't have a lot of good elementary school teachers.
No, nobody seemed to.
They didn't really. But they liked me. Do you remember?
Tabby did, but yeah, your teachers would like you.
They liked me a lot. But I hated so many of them.
That one dude really liked you. I can't remember his name.
My first...
LeCount. Mr. LeCount. Remember he had the Super E?
Yeah.
That he would dress up as and
he
stuff
liked
like
me?
that?
I don't remember.
That guy loved you. He's the one that you walked in there and were like, my mother needs to talk to you. Or is going to talk to you.
I remember. Yeah, the one with the
about
purse.
What? And you're like, and just like dipped out on him. He was so nervous. Me and Mom went to talk to him and he was like, and we're like, what?
That man wrote a book at the end of the year for us. He wrote a book for us and put our names in as some of the characters.
That's so cool.
And I can't remember what mine is, but I remember some of the other kids. And because I remember sitting there in the mat, like looking up, like I can't wait for my name to come up. And I can't remember what it was. I wish I still had that. I liked that teacher. First grade.
He was really, really good teacher.
However, it wasn't his class that he took us out, and I was actually telling Autumn about this the other day. He took us out into the that school had like 2 stairs or something because we went out and we were on the roof. And that's because the classroom exited out onto the roof of the school.
Really?
And and we were raising butterflies, but they had all died.
Oh no.
And so he went to go empty it. And they all just fell out in front of us. Oh and he panicked and he was like, oh, they're just sleeping. So he had us we were going up and grabbing them and throwing them off the roof to see if they would just start flying. And it was awful.
Oh my gosh.
But we were so excited. What are you going to tell a bunch of first graders that all the butterflies had died?
No.
No. We're just going to start peeing.
I don't... Your default emoji pee. Nice.
But yeah.
Oh, very cool. Do you have...
No, that's all for me.
So you do some trivia?
Yep, trivia.
I got some pretty good stuff.
Oh, yeah. Fun fact of the day.
Yeah, fun fact.
Fun fact. Here we go, because I told you the ones. In anatomy class, I'm trying to drop because I hate it. He told us that the way you identify whether or not a shark is female or not is by their fin, like a frontal fin or in the back. I don't know. It's one of the fins.
The dorsal fin?
Dorsal, maybe.
Yeah.
He didn't tell us how you identify it, but yeah, just that's how you identify it. So if you didn't know and you see sharks and you look at their fins and you're like, oh, cool, that one's different from this one, it means that one of them's a female and the other one's a male.
Very cool.
So fun fact.
Very cool.
Yep.
Thank you. All right, trivia. So, the use of caller ID increased more than 3-fold after the release of this movie.
Yeah.
I thought you would like that.
I do like that.
Immediately, people were like, yeah, I need caller ID. Who is it? Who's calling me? Chucky?
Chucky?
Yeah. Drew Barrymore and Neve Campbell did not meet Roger Jackson, who's the actor who played the voice. They never met him.
The voice?
Before shooting. The voice that called him, hello, Sydney.
I thought that was a little box.
That's not. It was actually a real guy. He really talks like that. But I mean, in the movie, it's portrayed as a box, so that way it can be a voice changer. But he is actually this guy.
Have you ever had one of those boxes?
No.
Do you want one of those boxes?
Yeah, that would be fun. I would call Papa John's and just be like, "I want a pizza, Sydney."
Why are you gonna put Sydney after everything?
Because her name is Sydney.
Yeah.
In the movie, I don't know. So yeah, but whenever they're talking to him on the phone to the killer. They are actually talking to him. In fact, none of the cast met him.
That's creepy.
Craven thought that it would be better to bring out the shock reaction he needed from everyone to hear his voice at that point.
For the first time, yeah. That's good. That's authentic.
So exactly. Wes Craven's a genius, man.
You know, and that's kind of how they did with the I don't know if I talked about this before, but with the most recent It remake.
Yeah.
They did that with the kids, where they had the guy in the clown makeup at all times around them. And
so that way
apparently,
you're just freaked out all the time.
Yeah, apparently the parents were really mad because apparently some of the kids were actually traumatized by it for a little while. They were like genuinely scared by him because he was always in character.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So what a way to keep your people in a good acting shape, huh?
Yeah.
I don't think I would have liked that.
So leading with that, to keep Drew Barrymore looking scared and crying, director Wes Craven kept telling her real-life stories about animal cruelty. Because she's an avid animal activist.
Oh my god!
So in order to keep her sad and crying, he would just tell her these horrible stories.
That is horrible. And she only has like 15 minutes of the movie.
Yep.
That's terrible.
Yeah, I thought you'd appreciate that.
Oh my gosh.
Skeet Ulrich, who's Billy Loomis, he was cast probably because he resembled Johnny Depp when he had played his character in A Nightmare on Elm Street. So if you think of Skeet Ulrich and think of young Johnny Depp, they have a resemblance. Yep, that's partly why he got the part.
I liked Billy.
So,
yeah.
Reese Witherspoon, you know who that is?
Yes.
Yeah, she turned down the lead role.
Really?
Yep.
Oh, what a shame.
Yep, she could have been Sydney.
Oh, wow.
But she turned it down.
That one would haunt me.
It would change the movie.
Yeah,
so,
but it would haunt me to know that I lost that kind of money.
Yeah, there's a lot of times like that people, actors and actresses, like you heard that they hear that they turned down a role or something like that, and then the movie turns out to be like box office smash. And I think Titanic was like that. I think somebody who would like turn down a role.
It's something you got to do. You know, you got to take that risk.
Sorry. This movie's included in the 1001 movies you must see before you die.
Have you seen those posters? Oh my gosh, I meant to tell you about this. Because I think it'd be really cool. You know how we have this big empty space for here?
Yes.
So there is a thing where it's like 100 movies or something, and it's a poster, because they do it with multiple things. They have like TV shows and everything, but it's a poster, and you take a coin, and you like scratch it off when you've seen it.
Oh.
But it's another old horror, there's a horror movie one. But it's a bunch of different horror movies and old movies and everything. And I think that would be so cool to get and have. And then just scratch off when we've seen it.
That would be cool. I agree with that.
Can't remember what it's called though.
We'll have to check it out.
Check it out. But I think that'd be literally, I would love that. Keep me more entertained. Or enticed. That makes sense. I don't get paid to do this.
I don't get paid. You kind of do.
And no, I don't.
You get benefits from it. So we get stuff. People, we got our Patreon and we get stuff, and that's how we support ourselves.
I was thinking about that one company with the socks.
Yeah, it didn't happen.
That was really.
That would have been cool. That. All right. Anything else for that tonight?
No, I'm just sad about the socks.
Yeah, me too. All right, we're going to wrap this up tonight. I'd like to thank everyone for stopping by and listening to our 20th episode, which is very, very cool. Yep. We do deeply appreciate it more than you could imagine. And of course, the best way to say that you love us is to give us a 5-star review on iTunes and leave us a review. Both of those things would be really cool. I don't think we've gotten any route. I neglected to check before we did the episode. So
I almost said something too, but I decided not to.
And I don't know, but I would really appreciate if you could go out there and do that for us. The 5 stars is great. A review is even better. It helps us move up in the charts. iTunes is kind of like the godfather of all of the podcasts. And it kind of helps you find out like new and noteworthy and stuff like that. It would help us out immensely in getting found by other people. So if you could just take the 5 minutes, if you haven't already done it for us yet, and just do that, we would greatly appreciate it.
Oh wow, this was a long episode.
Yes, it is.
Because now it's 12 a.m. right now for us.
Yeah.
Wow.
You can email us at theyesteryearpodcast@gmail.com. Twitter is twitter.com/yesteryearpcast. Instagram is instagram.com/yesteryearpodcast. Facebook is facebook.com/yesteryearpodcast. Our Facebook group is the Truffle Shufflers. We have had some new members that have joined up, which is very cool. I'd love to get some more, as many as you can. If you got friends, tell them, hey man, join this group. It's really fun. They do have to answer the secret question, which is the host names, James and Beth. Our website is theyesteryearpodcast.buzzsprout.com. Our Patreon, if you'd like to support us that way, is patreon.com/the nostalgia group. Of course, a shout out to Greg Revan for our intro and outro music for both shows. And as always, I would like to say that we love you and say good night, Beth.
Good night, everyone.